My daughter-in-law had been poisoning me for 18 months. I discovered it sitting in my recliner, pretending the drugs still worked. "Once he's committed," she whispered to my son. "We get power of attorney. This house is ours. 950,000, free and clear." I kept my breathing steady while rage burned in my chest. She had no idea I'd been dumping that coffee for weeks. No idea I'd recorded every word. If you've ever watched someone you trusted smile to your face while destroying your life, you'll understand what came next. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting or fighting. It's letting evil people hang themselves with their own rope. Before we continue, please subscribe for more true stories where heartbreak finds its justice again. The blood test results would change everything. But let me tell you how I got there. February 15th, 2023, the day after we buried my wife, Eleanor. That's when it started. Patricia had been so helpful during Eleanor's final months, making my morning coffee, bringing it to my study, with that concerned smile. "You need to keep your strength up, Dad," she'd say. And I believed her. God help me. I believed her. By April, something was wrong. Every morning around 10, I'd feel this crushing fatigue. My thoughts would get fuzzy. Words wouldn't come right. During family dinners, I'd lose track of conversations mid-sentence. "It's grief," Patricia told the family. "And his age. Dad's 70 next year." 69. I was 69, but I was too tired to correct her. The morning drowsiness became routine. Coffee at 8:30. Brain fog by 10. Nap by noon. Patricia started accompanying me to doctor visits. "He's been so confused lately," she'd tell Dr. Peterson. Then she'd squeeze my shoulder. "Tell him about forgetting to turn off the stove, Dad." I hadn't forgotten anything, but sitting there groggy and disoriented, I couldn't form the words to argue. That's when the financial changes started. "Dad, you really shouldn't be handling your own accounts," Danny said in June. "Patricia found 3 unpaid bills on your counter. Bills I'd never seen. Bills Patricia must have pulled from my mailbox and scattered around. "We're just looking out for you," she said, taking my checkbook. "Let me help with the monthly expenses." My pension was $3,100 a month. The house was paid off. Eleanor and I had scrimped for decades to clear that mortgage. My expenses shouldn't have been more than $1,800 monthly. But somehow I was always broke. "Where does my money go?" I asked Patricia one morning in August. "Medications are expensive, Dad. Your Ambien alone is $84 monthly." Ambien? I'd never taken Ambien in my life. That was the first crack in their story. But the drugs kept my thoughts too scattered to investigate. By October, Patricia was telling neighbors about my episodes. Mrs. Johnson from next door started looking at me with pity. "I'm so sorry about James," she told Patricia at the mailbox. "Early onset dementia is heartbreaking." "We're managing," Patricia replied. "Some days are better than others." I wanted to scream that there was nothing wrong with my mind, but the words came out slurred, confused. Patricia would just smile sadly and guide me back inside. The isolation was systematic. My weekly poker game? Dad's not feeling up to it anymore. Book club at the library? Too overstimulating for him now. Even my brother Tom stopped visiting after Patricia told him I'd become aggressive and unpredictable. "It's safer if we limit his social interactions," she explained to Danny. "He gets agitated around people." Agitated. The only thing that agitated me was watching this woman steal my life piece by piece, while everyone applauded her dedication. By November, she'd convinced my family I needed supervision. "He left the gas burner on Tuesday," she told Danny. A lie. "And yesterday I found him, wandering the neighborhood in his pajamas." Another lie. But the timing was perfect. I'd stumble downstairs around noon, still groggy from whatever she'd put in my coffee, and find concerned family members discussing my deterioration. "Maybe we should look into memory care facilities," Patricia suggested during Thanksgiving dinner, "just for his safety." That's when I realized what the blood test results would change everything meant. Because 3 weeks earlier, on November 1st, I'd made a decision that saved my life. I'd started pretending to drink the coffee. It happened by accident. That morning, I'd knocked over the mug, reaching for my glasses. Patricia quickly made a fresh cup, but I was already running late for what I thought was a doctor's appointment. Instead of drinking it, I grabbed my coat and left. 4 hours later, my mind was clearer than it had been in months. That evening, I did an experiment. I dumped the coffee in the kitchen sink when Patricia wasn't looking, filled the mug with water, and pretended to drink. Then I waited. No fatigue, no confusion. For the first time since February, I could think clearly. The next morning, same thing, and the next, within a week. I understood exactly what had been happening. The systematic drugging, the financial manipulation, the social isolation. Patricia wasn't just stealing my money. She was stealing my identity, my competence, my right to exist as a thinking person. But I needed proof, real proof that would stand up in court and expose her to my family. That's when I drove to Best Buy and spent $89 on a digital recorder. Because if Patricia thought she could gaslight a man who'd spent 38 years teaching literature, analyzing deception, studying character motivation, understanding how stories really work, she'd made a fatal miscalculation. I was about to become the author of her downfall. My plan required perfect timing. But first, I needed to document exactly what she was putting in my coffee every morning. The blood test was just the beginning. She had no idea. I was recording every word when the real plan came out. December 5th, Tuesday morning. Patricia thought. I was in my usual drug-induced stupor, slumped in my chair with the empty coffee mug. The Sony recorder was tucked inside my cardigan pocket, red light blinking. The lawyer says we need medical documentation, she whispered to someone on her phone, walking into the kitchen. 3 physicians stating he's mentally incompetent. I kept my eyes half closed, breathing slow and steady. Dr. Peterson already signed off. Says James shows clear signs of cognitive decline. I made sure to mention the gas burner incident and the wandering episode. Both complete fabrications, but Dr. Peterson hadn't questioned them. Dr. Stevens from the memory clinic. We'll see him next week. I've already briefed him about James's condition. The 3rd signature should be easy. I found a neurologist who specializes in these cases. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about the house. This was about having me declared legally incompetent. Once we have the court order, everything transfers. The house, his pension, the life insurance payout from Eleanor's death. Danny doesn't suspect anything. He thinks we're being good caregivers. Life insurance. Eleanor's $50,000 policy that I'd planned to leave to our grandson Tyler for college. Patricia's voice got clear as she moved toward the living room. The property appraiser came yesterday while Danny was at work. $950,000. Can you believe that? Almost $1 million for this old place. She paused, probably checking to make sure I was still asleep. The nursing home is perfect. Shady Oaks Memory Care. Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Meanwhile, we sell the house and move to Florida like we planned. Florida. They'd been planning this for months. The beauty is it's all legal. Power of attorney for an incompetent relative. The court will thank us for taking such good care of poor confused James. That night, while Patricia was at her book club, the same book club, she told me, was too stimulating for my condition. I searched her purse. Real estate listings for Sarasota condos. 3 of them all bookmarked. Prices ranging from $400,000 to $600,000. A handwritten note. Close on house by February 1st. Move by March. But the most damning evidence was in a manila folder, hidden behind her romance novels. Power of attorney documents. Already filled out, waiting for signatures. Medical commitment papers for Shady Oaks, dated January 3rd, and a hand-drawn timeline in Patricia's neat handwriting. December 1st to 15th, secure medical opinions. December 16th to 25th, Christmas normal. Don't upset Danny. December 26th to 31st, file court papers. January 3rd, commitment. January 15th, POA hearing. February 1st, house closing. March 1st, Florida. She'd planned my entire destruction, like a business transaction. The next morning, I pretended to struggle with my oatmeal, while Patricia made her daily phone call. Dr. Stevens confirmed James for December 15th. I told him about the bathroom accidents and the violent outbursts. Bathroom accidents? Violent outbursts? The lies were getting more elaborate. Danny's starting to ask questions, though. Last night he said maybe Dad just needs different medication, not a nursing home. She paused, listening. I know. We're too close to back down now. I already put a deposit on the Sarasota condo. $20,000 down payment. $20,000 from where? Then I remembered. My missing pension checks. The memory care facility wants $4,800 monthly. Insurance covers maybe half, but it doesn't matter. Once we sell the house, we're set for life. Set for life. On my life's work. On the home Eleanor and I had built together. That afternoon, Patricia brought me my coffee, with extra sweetness. Here you go, Dad. Your favorite. I watched her walk away, then carefully lifted the mug. In the bottom, white residue that hadn't fully dissolved. I wet my finger and tasted it. Bitter, chalky, definitely not sugar. I poured the coffee into a mason jar. I'd hidden behind my chair, sealed it tight, and labeled it with the date. Evidence sample number 1. The next morning, same routine. Patricia crushed something into my coffee, while she thought I was reading the newspaper. This time I saw her palm a pill bottle, before dropping it back in her purse. Sample number 2 went into another jar. By December 10th, I had 5 samples and 47 minutes of recorded conversations. Patricia had unknowingly confessed to drugging me, forging medical reports, stealing my pension money, and planning to commit me against my will. But the most chilling recording came December 12th. The best part is, James will never know what hit him, she told her accomplice. I still didn't know who was on the other end of these calls. By the time he realizes what's happening, he'll be locked in memory care, with no legal rights. Even if he tries to tell anyone, who's going to believe a demented old man? She laughed, actually laughed. Honestly, it's almost a mercy. What quality of life does he have anyway? Sitting around feeling sorry for himself, since Eleanor died. At least this way his death will fund something useful. My death. She was already planning my death. That's when I knew. I wasn't just fighting for my house or my money. I was fighting for my life. And the recording device captured every word. My plan required perfect timing. But first, I had to make a choice that would change everything. December 13th, Wednesday morning. I sat in my study, staring at 5 mason jars of drugged coffee and a digital recorder full of Patricia's confessions. The evidence was damning, but I needed more than her word against mine. I needed medical proof. The appointment with Dr. Stevens was in 2 days. Patricia's hand-picked neurologist, who would rubber stamp my mental incompetence. If I showed up confused and disoriented, as expected, he'd sign the papers. That would lock me away forever. But if I showed up completely lucid, Patricia would know. Her drug scheme had failed. That's when I realized the beautiful simplicity of my situation. Patricia had given me the perfect cover story for my own investigation. I called Dr. Rebecca Martinez's office. She'd been Eleanor's oncologist, someone who actually knew me before Patricia's campaign of destruction. I'd like to schedule some private blood work, I told her nurse. Comprehensive toxicology screening. Is this related to your current treatment, Mr. Thompson? No, I said carefully. I have some concerns about medications I may have been given without my knowledge. Dr. Martinez agreed to see me that afternoon during her lunch break, away from her regular office. James, she said, when I walked into the private lab, you look remarkably well. For someone with advancing dementia. That's because I don't have dementia, Rebecca. I have a daughter-in-law with a pill crusher and a real estate scheme. Her expression shifted from confusion to alarm as I explained the 18-month timeline, the morning coffee routine, the systematic isolation, the forged medical reports. I need you to test my blood for sedatives, I said, and I need documentation that my cognitive function is normal. She drew 3 vials of blood and spent 30 minutes administering cognitive tests, memory recall, pattern recognition, problem-solving exercises. James, your test scores are in the 95th percentile for your age group. There's nothing wrong with your mind. Then why do I feel foggy and confused? Every morning after coffee? Because someone is drugging you, she said grimly. These blood samples will tell us what and how much. While we waited for the lab results, I made my second crucial decision. I drove to Best Buy and purchased a Wise security camera for $36. Tiny thing, no bigger than a golf ball, with wireless capability and smartphone alerts. That evening, while Patricia was at Danny's parent-teacher conference for Tyler, I installed it behind the bread box on my kitchen counter. Perfect angle to capture the coffee maker and whoever used it. The next morning, I pretended to shuffle downstairs late, playing the confused old man role, while the camera recorded Patricia's routine. 8:47 a.m. Patricia enters kitchen, starts coffee maker. 8:49 a.m. retrieves pill bottle from purse, crushes 2 tablets with back of spoon. 8:51 a.m. stirs crushed pills into my coffee mug, adds extra cream to mask the taste. 8:52 a.m. brings coffee to my study, with concerned smile. Here's your morning coffee, Dad. All captured in high-definition video. By noon, Dr. Martinez called with the blood results. James, you have 2.3 milligrams of zolpidem in your system. That's a full therapeutic dose of Ambien, taken daily for months. It would cause exactly the symptoms you've described. Memory problems, confusion, drowsiness, difficulty with speech. Is that enough to prove I'm being poisoned? It's enough to put someone in prison. That afternoon, I made copies of everything. Blood test results, video footage, audio recordings, Patricia's timeline, the fake medical reports. One set went in my safe deposit box at First National. Another went to my attorney, Margaret Hayes, with a sealed letter explaining the situation. If anything happens to me, I told Margaret, if I'm suddenly committed to a nursing home or declared incompetent, open this envelope and call the police. Margaret looked confused. James, you seem completely lucid to me. That's because I am. But tomorrow I'm going to start the performance of my lifetime. My appointment with Dr. Stevens was December 15th. Patricia expected me to arrive drugged, confused, easy to manipulate into a dementia diagnosis. Instead, I would give her exactly what she wanted, while recording every lie she told, because sometimes the best way to expose a liar is to let them think they're winning. The next morning I drank the coffee. All of it. Patricia's drugs hit my system like a freight train, but this time I was ready for them. And this time I had witnesses who knew I was acting. Christmas morning would be her last, but she had no idea the trap was already closing. December 15th, the appointment. That was supposed to seal my fate. Became the beginning of Patricia's downfall. I arrived at Dr. Stevens' office. Exactly as she planned. Groggy, confused, stumbling slightly from the double dose of zolpidem I'd forced myself to drink that morning, but hidden in my jacket pocket. The digital recorder was capturing every word. "Dr. Stevens, this is my father-in-law, James," Patricia said, guiding me to a chair. Like I was helpless. As I mentioned on the phone, his condition has deteriorated rapidly. Dr. Stevens was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, with the kind of smooth confidence that comes from rubber stamping difficult family decisions. "Tell me about his symptoms," he said, not even looking at me. "Memory loss, confusion, wandering episodes. Yesterday he asked me 4 times what year it was. He's becoming aggressive when we try to help him." I sat there, letting my head droop, occasionally mumbling incoherently, the perfect picture of advancing dementia. "Has he had any violent outbursts?" "Just last week he threw a coffee mug at me, screamed that I was trying to poison him." Patricia's voice carried just the right note of long-suffering patience. "The paranoia is getting worse." Dr. Stevens nodded sympathetically. Classic presentation. "Mr. Thompson, can you tell me what month this is?" I stared blankly at him, then looked around the room with manufactured confusion. Where are we?" "It's December, James," Patricia said softly. "We're at the doctor's office, remember?" For 20 minutes, I gave the performance of my life, stumbling over simple questions, forgetting Patricia's name mid-sentence, asking repeatedly why we were there. Dr. Stevens took notes, occasionally exchanging knowing glances with Patricia. "I'm sorry to say this confirms what you suspected," he told her. "Moderate to severe cognitive impairment. I'll prepare the documentation. For memory care placement." "How quickly can we move forward?" Patricia asked. "His safety is our primary concern. I can have the papers ready by Monday. Shady Oaks is an excellent facility." Perfect. Everything was falling into place exactly as she'd planned, except I was recording every fraudulent word. That evening, while Patricia celebrated with Danny over dinner, "The doctor says Dad needs specialized care now." I uploaded the video footage to my laptop, 18 separate mornings of Patricia crushing pills into my coffee. Clear, undeniable evidence of systematic poisoning. I burned copies onto 3 different drives and mailed one to my brother Tom in Chicago, with a note, "Open this if I disappear." December 18th brought Patricia's most damaging confession yet. I was pretending to nap in my chair when she made another phone call, this time pacing the living room freely, believing I was too drugged to understand. "The commitment papers are signed. January 3rd we drive him to Shady Oaks and walk away." She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. "No, Danny doesn't know about the house sale. I told him we're just looking into options for Dad's care. He thinks we'll visit every week and bring Tyler for holidays." Another pause. "Are you kidding? Once James is locked up, we're gone. Danny can visit his demented father alone if he wants. We'll be in Sarasota by March, and Tyler can spend summers with us. Instead of wasting time in this frozen wasteland." My grandson. She was planning to separate Tyler from his grandfather permanently. "The beauty is it's all legal. Power of attorney lets me sell everything. The pension gets redirected to pay for his care. And if he dies in that place, which honestly wouldn't be the worst thing, we inherit everything free and clear." She actually said it out loud. Hoped for my death, while I sat 10 feet away. 18 months of planning, but it's finally paying off. By New Year's, we'll be millionaires. That night I called Detective Sarah Brown at Minneapolis PD. Margaret Hayes had recommended her as someone who specialized in elder abuse cases. "Detective Brown, I need to report a crime in progress. Multiple felonies involving elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy." "Sir, can you come in and file a formal complaint?" "I can do better than that. I can provide video evidence, audio recordings, and medical documentation of an 18-month drugging scheme." 24 hours later, I sat in Detective Brown's office with manila folders full of evidence, blood tests showing deliberate poisoning, video footage of Patricia crushing pills, audio recordings of her admitting to fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. "Mr. Thompson, this is one of the most comprehensive elder abuse cases I've ever seen. Your daughter-in-law is facing serious felony charges. I want her arrested, but I need you to wait until December 27th. Detective Brown looked puzzled. Why the delay? Because Patricia has one more performance scheduled. Christmas morning, she's going to tell my family that I'm too far gone to stay home. She's going to show them the nursing home commitment papers and explain how she's been protecting everyone from my dangerous behavior. You want your family to hear her lies before we arrest her? I want my son to understand exactly who he married, and I want Patricia to believe she's won, right up until the handcuffs click. Detective Brown smiled grimly. We'll be ready. December 23rd, Patricia made her final mistake. She brought home real estate documents for the house sale, leaving them on the kitchen counter while she ran errands. Sale price, $850,000. To Peterson Development Group. Closing date, December 29th, just 4 days after Christmas. She'd already sold our family home. But what Patricia didn't know was that I'd been busy too, making my own calls, arranging my own transactions. She chose the wrong day to make her final move. Christmas morning, 2024. Patricia woke up early, humming, while she made breakfast, probably thinking about her new Florida condo. She had no idea this would be the last morning she'd spend as a free woman. Coffee's ready, Dad, she called, bringing me the usual drugged cup. I took it gratefully, made a show of sipping it slowly, while Patricia bustled around, preparing for Danny and Tyler's arrival. What she didn't see was me, pouring most of it into the potted plant. Beside my chair, the same plant that had been slowly dying for weeks from her daily poison doses. By 10 a.m., Danny and Tyler arrived, with presents and forced Christmas cheer. My 12-year-old grandson gave me a careful hug, the kind you give someone you think is fragile and confused. Hi, Grandpa, he said softly. Mom says you're not feeling very good. I'm feeling better than I have in months, I told him, which made Patricia shoot me a sharp look. Dad's having one of his clearer moments, she explained quickly. They come and go now. During gift opening, Patricia kept checking her watch. She had a timeline to follow, papers to present, a family to convince. At 11:30, she made her move. Danny, can I talk to you privately in the kitchen? Tyler was distracted with his new video game, so I followed quietly, staying just around the corner, where I could hear everything. Your father had another episode Tuesday night, Patricia began. He was wandering the neighborhood at 2 a.m. in his underwear. Mrs. Johnson had to call me. Another lie. I'd been asleep in my bed at 2 a.m. Tuesday. I didn't want to ruin Christmas, but we can't wait any longer. Dr. Stevens says James needs immediate placement. The rustle of papers. She was showing Danny the commitment documents. Shady Oaks has a bed available January 3rd. I've already filled out the paperwork. Patricia, this seems so sudden. Danny, look at these incident reports. More paper shuffling. Violent outbursts, bathroom accidents, leaving the stove on 3 separate times. I've been protecting you from how bad it's gotten. All fabricated. Every single incident. What about the house? We'll have to sell it, of course. The memory care facility costs $4,800 monthly. Even with his pension and insurance, we'll need the equity to cover his care. Danny's voice was uncertain. How long do these facilities? What's the average stay? Patricia's tone went gentle, sympathetic. Honey, people with your father's condition don't typically live more than 3 to 5 years. But at least he'll be safe and properly medicated. Properly medicated. She was already planning to drug me into submission permanently. I know this is hard, she continued. But think about Tyler. Do you want him remembering his grandfather? As a confused, angry old man? Better to preserve the good memories. That's when I stepped into the kitchen. What good memories would those be, Patricia? She spun around, startled. Dad, you should be resting. 18 months of good memories. Like when you told everyone I had bathroom accidents. Or when you claimed I threw a coffee mug at you. Patricia's face went pale. Danny, your father is having another episode. Or maybe the good memory of you crushing Ambien into my coffee every morning. Since February. Danny looked between us, confused. Dad, what are you talking about? I reached into my cardigan pocket and pulled out the digital recorder. I'm talking about this, I said, pressing play. Patricia's voice filled the kitchen. The beauty is it's all legal. Power of attorney for an incompetent relative. The court will thank us for taking such good care of poor, confused James. Danny's face went white. Patricia, what is that? I fast-forwarded to another clip. Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Meanwhile, we sell the house and move to Florida like we planned. This is fake, Patricia said quickly. Danny, your father is delusional. Another clip. The pills work perfectly. Once he's locked up, we're gone. Danny stared at his wife, like he'd never seen her before. Patricia, you've been drugging him? Of course not. This is exactly what I mean about his paranoid delusions. I pulled out my phone and showed them the video footage. Patricia, clear as day, crushing pills with the back of a spoon and stirring them into my coffee. December 18th, 8:49 a.m., I said calmly. December 19th, same time. I have 18 different videos, Danny. Your wife has been systematically poisoning me for a year and a half. Patricia grabbed for my phone. This is ridiculous. Don't touch him, Danny said sharply, stepping between us. I pulled out the blood test results. Dr. Martinez ran a full toxicology panel. 2.3 milligrams of zolpidem. That's a full dose of Ambien, taken daily for months. Patricia's composure finally cracked. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Your father was depressed, barely functional. So you decided to make it worse. I was trying to help. The confusion, the memory problems, that was just the grief talking. The medication calmed him down. The medication nearly destroyed me, I said quietly. And you were going to lock me away forever, so you could steal my house. Danny picked up the commitment papers. Patricia had left on the counter. January 3rd, you already scheduled it. For his own good, for $950,000, I interrupted. The exact amount you got, for selling my house to Peterson Development. The silence stretched, until Tyler wandered into the kitchen, still holding his new game. Why is everyone so quiet? He asked. And why is Mom crying? Because sometimes even the best liars eventually run out of lies. But the real surprise was still coming. Danny stood frozen in the kitchen, holding the commitment papers, while Patricia sobbed at the table. Tyler looked between the adults, sensing the terrible shift in his family's world. Patricia, Danny said slowly, how long have you been planning this? I answered for her. 18 months, since the day after we buried Eleanor. I opened my manila folder and spread the evidence across the kitchen table, like a prosecutor presenting to a jury. Here's her timeline, written in her own handwriting. December 26th, file court papers. January 3rd, commitment. February 1st, house closing. March 1st, Florida. Danny picked up Patricia's planning document, his hands shaking. You've already put a deposit on a condo. $20,000 down payment, I said, paid for with my stolen pension checks. Patricia finally looked up. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. You don't understand what it's been like. Taking care of him, dealing with his depression, taking care of me. I pulled out my bank statements. You've stolen $43,000 from my accounts in the past year. That's not caregiving. That's embezzlement. Danny, please, show him the medical reports, I said quietly. I placed Dr. Stevens' fraudulent dementia diagnosis next to Dr. Martinez's cognitive assessment. Perfect scores on every test, dated 3 days apart. 2 doctors. 2 completely different conclusions. Want to guess which one Patricia coached? Danny read both documents, his face growing darker. Dr. Stevens never actually examined you, did he? 20-minute performance, based entirely on Patricia's lies. She told him I was violent, paranoid, dangerous. I was protecting everyone, Patricia burst out. You were scaring Tyler with your strange behavior. What strange behavior? Tyler interrupted, looking confused. Grandpa's been fine. You're the one who said he was sick, from the mouths of babes. I played another recording. The paranoia is getting worse. Yesterday he threw a coffee mug at me. I never threw anything, I said calmly. But Patricia needed documented incidents of violence. For the commitment hearing, Danny was pacing now, putting pieces together. The wandering episode you told me about never happened. The stove left on, fiction. The bathroom accidents, complete fabrication. Each lie Danny named, I calmly debunked with evidence. Audio recordings, video footage, medical tests, 18 months of systematic deception, documented and undeniable. But why? Danny finally asked his wife. Dad would have helped us if we'd just asked. He always has. Patricia's mask slipped completely. Help us what? Scrape by in this miserable house forever? Watch you work at that factory, until your back gives out? I'm 34 years old, Danny. I deserve better than this. There it was. The truth behind all the lies. Better than what? I asked. A family that loves you? A home with no mortgage? A husband who works 60 hours a week to support you? Better than being poor, she screamed. Better than pretending. Your little professor pension and your dead wife's insurance money. We're going to solve our problems. Tyler stepped closer to me, instinctively understanding who the real threat was. Mom, why are you saying mean things about Grandma Eleanor? Patricia ignored him. You have no idea what it's like being married to failure, watching other families have nice things, while we live paycheck to paycheck. We weren't living paycheck to paycheck, Danny said quietly. You were spending everything I made, plus Dad's money, on things we didn't need. I pulled out the final piece of evidence. The credit card statements I'd copied from Patricia's purse. $15,000 on clothes and jewelry. $8,000 on spa treatments and salon visits. $6,000 on restaurants and entertainment. All charged to cards in my name with forged signatures. Danny stared at the statements. Patricia, what is this? But she was already moving toward the door, grabbing her purse and keys. I'm not staying here to be attacked. By a demented old man and his enabler son. You're not going anywhere, I said calmly. Detective Sarah Brown is waiting for you outside. Patricia froze. What? I called the police 3 days ago. They're parked in front of the house right now, waiting for my signal. Through the kitchen window, we could see the unmarked police car in the driveway. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting justice take its course. The house sale was already in motion, but Patricia had no idea who the real buyer was. Detective Brown's knock came exactly 30 seconds after I texted her. Through the front window, I watched Patricia's face cycle through panic, calculation, and desperate defiance. Mr. Thompson, Detective Brown said as I opened the door. We're ready to proceed. She was a compact woman in her 40s, with the steady authority of experience. Behind her stood Officer Martinez, and a crime scene photographer. Patricia Wilson Thompson, Detective Brown said formally. You're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit involuntary commitment. This is insane! Patricia backed toward the kitchen. Danny, tell them your father is delusional. You have the right to remain silent, Detective Brown continued, pulling out handcuffs. Patricia made one last desperate play. Officer, I'm this man's primary caregiver. He has severe dementia and has been making wild accusations. Ma'am, Detective Brown said evenly, we've reviewed 18 months of evidence. Video footage of you crushing pills into his coffee, audio recordings of you admitting to drugging him, medical documentation proving systematic poisoning. The photographer was already snapping pictures of my evidence spread across the kitchen table. These recordings could be fabricated, Patricia shouted. Danny, you know I would never hurt your father. Detective Brown played a clip from my recorder. Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Patricia's shoulders sagged. That's taken out of context. What context makes drugging an elderly man acceptable? Officer Martinez asked. Danny finally spoke up. Detective, I had no idea any of this was happening. Patricia told me Dad was getting worse, that he needed professional care. Mr. Thompson, Detective Brown clarified. The younger Mr. Thompson, you're not under investigation. Our evidence shows you were deceived along with your father. Tyler had been standing silently by my side, watching his mother get handcuffed. When Patricia looked at him with desperate eyes, he moved closer to me. Grandpa, he whispered, were you really sick? No, buddy, I said softly. I was never sick. Your mom was putting medicine in my coffee. That made me sleepy and confused. Why would she do that? Because sometimes adults make terrible choices for money. I wanted to say it, but instead, I just hugged him tighter. Detective Brown was reading Patricia her Miranda rights, while Officer Martinez documented the scene, the pill crusher still in the drawer, the mason jars of drugged coffee I'd saved as evidence, the commitment papers with forged signatures. The district attorney will be filing formal charges tomorrow, Detective Brown told me. Elder abuse in the first degree, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and theft. She's looking at 3 to 7 years in state prison. What about the house sale? Danny asked suddenly. That's when I smiled. For the first time in 18 months. Funny thing about that, I said. Patricia did sell the house to Peterson Development. Signed all the papers Tuesday morning. While you were at work. Danny looked confused. But how can they arrest her if the sale was legal? Because, I continued, Peterson Development is owned by my attorney, Margaret Hayes. The sale was designed to prevent Patricia from profiting from her crimes. Detective Brown looked impressed. You set up a sting operation? I knew she'd try to close before I could be committed. So Margaret created a shell company, made a legitimate offer, and Patricia signed over the deed, thinking she was about to become rich. Patricia stared at me in horror. You can't do that. The house is legally mine through power of attorney. Power of attorney obtained through fraud is invalid, Detective Brown said. The sale is void. But we already spent the down payment, Patricia screamed. The Florida condo will be repossessed, I said calmly, along with everything else you bought with my stolen money. As they led Patricia toward the police car, she turned back one last time. You'll never be able to take care of yourself, she shouted. You need me. I looked at my son, my grandson, the police officers treating me with respect and dignity. Then I looked at Patricia. The only thing I needed, I said, was for you to stop poisoning me. The car door slammed shut, and Patricia Wilson Thompson disappeared from our lives forever. But the biggest surprise was still waiting in my study. The final lesson was about to begin. Patricia spent Christmas night in Hennepin County Jail, probably thinking her lawyer would sort out the misunderstanding by morning. She had no idea that while she sat in a cell, I was making the phone calls that would complete her destruction. December 26th, 9:00 a.m. I drove to Margaret Hayes' law office with Danny and Tyler. James, Margaret said, the Peterson Development sale is officially void as of this morning. The property reverts to your ownership. Good, I said. Now I want to make a real sale. I handed her a manila folder. contact information for the Minnesota Alzheimer's Association. I want to deed the house to them, as a charitable donation in Eleanor's memory. Danny looked shocked. Dad, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. I pulled out Eleanor's photo from my wallet. Your mother spent her last months worrying about my future, afraid I'd be alone and vulnerable. This way, her memory funds research that might prevent other families from going through what we did. Margaret reviewed the documentation. The house appraised at $950,000. After taxes, the donation will be worth approximately $850,000 to the association. Perfect. I want it finalized today. That's incredibly generous, James. Where will you live? I smiled. Sunset Manor Senior Living. I toured it yesterday. Independent apartments, community activities, weekly poker games. Eleanor would have loved it there. By noon, the deed transfer was complete. The Minnesota Alzheimer's Association now owned my family home, with plans to sell it and fund research grants in Eleanor Thompson's name. December 27th, Patricia's arraignment. I attended with Danny, sitting in the gallery, while she faced Judge Williams. Your Honor, Patricia's public defender said, my client was acting as a devoted caregiver to an elderly man with dementia. Counselor, Judge Williams interrupted, I've reviewed the evidence. Video footage of your client systematically drugging the alleged victim. Audio recordings of her admitting to an 18-month fraud scheme. Medical documentation proving the victim has no cognitive impairment whatsoever. Patricia stood in her orange jumpsuit, finally understanding her lies wouldn't work in a courtroom. How does your client plead? To charges of elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy? Not guilty, Your Honor. Judge Williams set bail at $50,000. Money Patricia no longer had access to. After the hearing, Detective Brown found me in the hallway. Mr. Thompson, I wanted you to know the Florida Condo Company is cooperating fully. They'll return Patricia's down payment as soon as the criminal charges are resolved. I don't want the money back, I said. Donate it to elder abuse prevention programs. You're sure? I'm 70 years old, with no children except Danny, and no grandchildren except Tyler. I have everything I need. That afternoon, Danny helped me pack my belongings for the move to Sunset Manor. Dad, I'm so sorry, he said for the 100th time. I should have known what she was doing. Son, Patricia fooled medical professionals, police officers, and half the neighborhood. She was very good at lying. How did you figure it out? I held up Eleanor's photo. Your mother taught literature for 35 years. She always said the best way to spot a liar is to pay attention to their contradictions. Patricia's story had holes you could drive a truck through, once I was sober enough to notice them. We loaded the last box into Danny's truck, just as a car pulled into the driveway. It was Patricia's sister from Wisconsin, looking confused and angry. Where is Patricia? She demanded. She was supposed to meet us in Florida this weekend. Danny and I exchanged glances. She's going to be delayed, I said politely. About 3 to 7 years, depending on her sentence. Sometimes the truth is the cruelest gift you can give someone. March 15th, 2025. Patricia pleaded guilty to avoid a lengthy trial. I sat in the courtroom gallery, watching Judge Williams deliver her sentence. 4 years in state prison, $50,000 in restitution, and a permanent restraining order, preventing her from contacting me or Tyler. Your actions represent a particularly cruel form of elder abuse, Judge Williams said. You systematically poisoned a grieving widower, stole his money, and attempted to have him permanently institutionalized for your financial gain. Patricia's shoulders shook as she accepted the sentence. No more Florida dreams. No more stolen pension checks. No more crushing pills into coffee. Danny filed for divorce the same week. Full custody of Tyler, with Patricia having no visitation rights until her release. Today, I'm sitting in my apartment at Sunset Manor, sharp as ever at 70. Tyler visits every Sunday. We read books together, the same way Eleanor and I used to read with Danny 40 years ago. I volunteer 3 days a week at the Minnesota Alzheimer's Association, sharing my story with other families. The research grant funded by Eleanor's house has already helped develop new early detection methods. Patricia gets out in 2029. By then, Tyler will be 16, old enough to understand exactly who his mother really was. Some people think revenge is about anger, but the sweetest revenge is simply living well, surrounded by people who genuinely care about you. Justice served, memory preserved. Before saying goodbye, if this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Don't forget to subscribe for more true family betrayal stories that reminds us we are stronger than we think.